Welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast number 751. I'm Tom Cagley, your host. I've been considering the relationship between privilege and fatalism. Boiling down the impact of privilege to a single word, we find power. Whether it's the ability to make decisions about the work you will do, the power to direct others to do work, or even just to be heard, privilege is power. That power can generate fatalism in those without the power privilege delivers. In SPaMCAST 751, we discuss. Also this week, Jeremy Berriault brings his QA Corner to the podcast. Mr. Berriault and I discuss why continuous improvement is important. Our discussion ties neatly into the essay on privilege and fatalism. We all have to commit to getting better every day or risk becoming irrelevant. Privilege and Fatalism, Thomas M. Cagley Jr., Megan E. Cagley. I've been considering the relationship between privilege and fatalism. Boiling down the impact of privilege to a single word, we find power. Whether it is the ability to make decisions about the work you will do, the power to direct others to do work, or even to be heard, privilege is power. That power can generate fatalism in those without the power privilege delivers. As an Agile coach, the concepts of privilege and fatalism often collide. Early in my career, a mentor passed on a piece of advice. If you have a great idea, Tom, have a consultant tell it to my boss. He was my mentor's boss. They will accept it from them, not from you or me. The consultants had privilege. The message was clear. We did not and would not be listened to. This is an example of a collision of fatalism and privilege. This was, of course, despite our corporate mottos. We only hire the best and brightest, and our employees are our greatest assets. I always wanted to be a desk, which were emblazoned on posters in the lunchroom. Looking back, it was hard to understand how that amount of cognitive dissonance was tolerated. I am now on the other side of the coin, where power differentials exist and are used as a tool to gather power, then privilege and fatalism run wild. In environments where privilege is actively used to control the flow of work and ideas, someone will have to assume a fatalistic position. Those without power have few options. Their options boil down to grinning and bearing it or finding another job. Accepting a belief that you have little control over how you will work and what you will work on depresses engagement. The ability to change jobs is not always an option. In the example mentioned above, I spent 7 years looking for another job. The arrangement was soul-sucking. However, there were few options. Fatalism suppresses engagement and innovation. As Agilists, we believe in continuous process improvement. Consider the outcome of retrospectives or operations reviews in which people involved don't believe they have the authority to address problems that beset them. The retrospective feedback loop will have little to no value. Teams will go through the motions to avoid punishment, or they will abandon the process. I don't believe there is a magic wand that will make the positive and negative impacts of privilege go away. I have come to the conclusion that much of this is basic human nature. As a coach, scrum master, or any other leader, your mission is to dampen the effect of privilege that reduces engagement and innovation. This means using our privilege to push back on privilege in order to build a bubble of engagement and innovation. Thoughts, comments, all welcome. Please feel free to reach out to us at spamcastinfo@gmail.com. We look forward to the conversation. Jeremy Berriault, welcome to the Software Process and Measurement Cast. Let's talk about why continuous improvement is actually important.
Sure, that's great. Good topic.
So, is it?
Is it? No. Okay, end the call.
Okay, we're done.
We're done. No, of course it's important. If you think about it, like, evolution is important, and evolution is continuous improvement. If you really want to break it down, like, it's how we're adapting to what we're doing and getting better at what we're doing, and getting better thinking, processing, working, just doing groceries. We always want to improve at what we want to do. Continuous improvement, you look at it like in the 3 decades that I've been working in an environment, like in a work environment, it's there. Like, if you don't improve and you just stay stagnant, then a couple things are going to happen. You're going to get bored, or you're going to get frustrated with what you're doing and leave.
Neither one of those two things. Well, I guess if it's from your point of view, if you get bored and leave, well, that is the right thing to do. From an organization's point of view, something got messed up. The whole idea of continuous improvement, though, I had a conversation relatively recently, probably posted already, with Jim Benson, Personal Kanban fame, Why Limit WIP, a number of other things. We were talking about his new book on collaboration, and he basically pointed in, at least in his opinion, that failure to continually improve is unprofessional. So as professionals, we have the responsibility to continuously improve. How do you have that conversation with teams? I don't know about you, but most of the people I work with have probably 40 or 50 things more than they should have on their plate at any one time. That's hyperbole, I know. But they're overloaded in WIP. How do you have that conversation about you need to take some time to learn something new, try a new experiment, do this?
I run into similar things, right? It's like, how are we going to get better at doing something? Because I have so much work I got to get done. I can't even think straight, let alone like spend like an hour a day or a couple hours a day, a couple hours a week just to think through how to become better. And I think for me, everything that I've used with the teams that I've worked with and individuals I work with is more like, what are the small things that you could do, you can change, that will even improve just a little bit? Like, let's just say, like, your hyperbole of like the 40 different things in WIP that are going on all at once. Like, what is the small change that you can do to finish like a few of those items you have going on at once sooner? Like, what can you do different, like becoming more efficient and effective? For me, like from a personal perspective, a good example is, as some of you know through the podcast, I compete in jiu-jitsu, and part of it is like with diet and competition, I have to maintain my weight. Well, with a lot of the changes that happened over the past 2 years, I gained a bit of weight and I've had to change my diet. And it wasn't going on any sort of strict diet that I did. It was just seeing what small change, like, here's all the food I eat. What are the small changes I can do to start helping lose the weight and also eating healthier? And since this is going on in August, so let's just say if it is around that time, like 12 months prior to when this is probably posted, I was 40 pounds heavier than I am at the time of this recording. So it's those small changes, and it just got better and better and better, and to the point where I'm now thinking about, I don't have to think hard about, okay, I don't eat this or I don't eat that. It's like, okay, I can eat this and do this, and it just almost comes naturally. I think if we look at it from a professional perspective, same type of thing, is what are those small changes? They eventually will build up to even bigger changes. And the improvements are just going to almost hockey stick up when things start rolling.
I know I agree with everything you just said. couple of things, though, that I worry about, right? So if we just focus on getting a few things done faster, so that the natural inclination in most organizations is when something comes off, when it gets to done, that means you have capacity. So someone, unless you control your work entry to some extent, someone will cram one or two more things in every time something comes off. So just getting something else done faster, there is almost a negative enhancement to doing that. Arguably, if I were trying to game the system, if I wanted to, I'd probably leave stuff in a undone state so that people would think that I didn't have capacity, so I could have capacity to do that. But that would be, I would have trouble ethically in my own head if I did that. But that's the problem, right? Because we don't even teams aren't allowed to control their WIP. Departments generally aren't allowed to control their WIP. Stuff gets stuffed in. People either have to cheat to get time to get better, or they're just not going to do it. How do we break this vicious cycle?
Obviously, that's a culture thing. Like in organizations, when that's happening, it's like, oh, whoa, you got this done faster. Here's even more work. And I know it's everywhere I've worked, it's always been an ongoing joke, something like that. It's like, oh, you got something done sooner? Okay, cool. Now you should be able to take twice the amount of work and get it done. To our last podcast, when we talked about communication, I think that's where you're going to break that cycle, in that you effectively communicate the work and how much the load that's being put on could be too much. And okay, look, what can we do to still get that same amount of work out, but make it more flowing or effective in getting it done, so it's not as stressful. So it's easier on the person to get the work done instead of having any sort of struggles. Because if you have that many work in progress, chances are there's some struggling going on in getting that work done. If you're able to change a few things where you can still get all that work done, but there's no struggle, it's just a simple, okay, get the work done, here we go, and move it over. It'll also change that individual's attitude, in that, and when I used to manage a group, I always told them, I want them to wake up in the morning and jump out of bed to come to work. I don't want them to drag their butts into work. You know what I mean by that?
Don't you want them to put clothes on first, though?
Well, okay, so there's a yada 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 that has to happen between the time you wake up to work.
Okay, I'm better now. That mental picture was hurting me, man.
Yeah, I know. Okay, as soon as you said, I'm like, oh, okay, let me rephrase that. But what I mean by that is that I always want people to enjoy what they're doing when and enjoy coming into work. And if you do it in a fashion where it doesn't seem like it is a struggle to get that work done, then that's great. Then that's what you want to work through. And I think that's how organizations should start looking and focusing, instead of kind of just saying, here, get the work done. The leadership should be looking as hey, how can I help you get I know it's a lot of work. I understand, and I appreciate the job that you're doing with the work that you're doing, getting that done. What can I do to help you move this along so it's easier for you to get that work?
So I think you hit another one of my core tenets, is that every part of the organization is on the hook to facilitate continuous improvement. It isn't just teams. It isn't just mushy middle management. It isn't just it isn't just the execs. If everybody isn't in on the goal of getting better, then probably there's no incentive to get there.
Yeah, because you're only as strong as your weakest link. And for continuous improvement, if there's senior leadership or any leadership or anyone in the organization that doesn't fall within the I'm going to continuously improve, or we are going to continuously improve, then it will crumble at some point. It's no different than the leak in a dam. Yeah, okay, there's a small leak and a little bit of dribble of water, but eventually that water, it's going to break away, and then the dam is just going to collapse.
And that's generally a bad thing.
Generally, when dams collapse, that is a very bad thing.
Yeah, I agree. Jeremy, if you had a magic wand again, it's the second time I've given you a magic wand, and could change the attitude, one thing that changes the attitude toward continuous improvement, what would that one change be?
I think for me, the change would be for everyone, for the organization to understand the value of what is the end zone of what will happen when you continuously improve, like how things will get there. I think a lot of what I've experienced when I've talked about continuous improvement was, oh my God, it's a nothing problem. We deal with it all the time. We're just going to keep doing it. We're just going to just deal with it. Or, oh, this is something that's too big to look at, and it only happens every once in a while. So, we're not going to worry about it. We'll just deal with it when it comes up. If they see through what the cost is of these changes, and what is the not only physical costs, money wise, but also depending on the issues going on, the mental aspect of it as well, and what that cost could be, and showing them what the cost of a change would be, I think they'll change their mind. I think they'll see it'll cost us, let's just say $20,000 to fix this one issue that is costing the organization $75,000 a year. Turn on investment. The following year, first year, you're going to have $50,000, $55,000 return on investment, and then the following year, it's $75,000 on top of that.
It builds. That's cool. So, Jeremy, how do people continue the conversation on continuous improvement with you?
So if to continue the conversation, one, they could read my book on root cause analysis on LeanPub.
And how would they? That's www.leanpub.org.
Leanpub.us.
Okay.
And you do a search for authors under my name. You'll come across my book, Root Cause Analysis. You can also reach me through my website at berrioandassociates.com, through Twitter at @jberriault, or on LinkedIn. You do a search for Jeremy Berriault in Toronto, and you'll come across me there.
Jeremy, again, marvelous. Thank you very much for being on the Software Process and Measurement Cast.
Yeah, Tom, I love being on this show, and I love talking our topics. It's always a pleasure.
And they never are what we start out with.
Nope.
In Reread Saturday News, Chapter 2 of Team Topologies is a deep dive into Conway's Law, both forward and backward, the Reverse Conway Manuver. Conway's Law states simply, the way people are organized influences software architecture. Buy a copy and read along. Links to this week and previous week's rereads are in the show notes. The SPaMCAST 752 will feature our interview with Laura Bell Main. We will discuss the confluence of fast-growing companies in security. Maybe I should say collision instead of confluence. If process improvement is a never-ending journey, why do so many people ask, are we there yet?